everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Valerie. I'm here today to talk to you about books by authors of color, specifically children's books by authors of color. And since we've been talking about print awareness and phonemic awareness, I thought it would be really good to highlight some books for different types of children. So I've grouped my books into 3 different categories. These first books that I'm going to cover, these are specifically related to a minority or person of color experience. So these are a little bit more specifically tailored to certain groups of children. Then I have a couple of books that are more fairy tale related. So these will give you some of the cultural aspects of different groups. Then we have a couple of just, day in the life of children and some whimsical books that I wanted to highlight as well. Okay, so the first book that I wanted to highlight today is called Island Born. This book is about a young girl growing up in Puerto Rico, and she's from Puerto Rico rather, and she's asked by her teacher to write and to draw a story about where she's from. And all the children in the book get to drawing where they're from. They talk about all the different places and their families, but she left the island when she was a little girl, so she actually doesn't remember what the island was like. So she's having a really hard time because she doesn't really have the full grasp of her identity and where she's from. And so instead she decides to make up a story, even though she doesn't remember. So this is all from her imagination. It's a really good story. And if you are someone like me who maybe grew up in a location where you have a little bit of disconnect between who you are and where you're from and what your family went through to get to where you are now, I really recommend this book. It's a really great story. And in order to complete this project, I was actually at the library in the children's section, and I was looking through all of these books. I had piles and piles of books, and I was the only adult there without kids, but that's okay. That's besides the point. I think they all kind of got what I was doing. Anyway, back to the next book on my list. So I have 2 by Black authors, and the first one you might have seen. There's a really popular short on YouTube called Hair Love, and I really wanted to highlight this book in particular because this is a book about a little girl and her dad, and they are learning to do her hair together. And I think it's really important because we don't often see men of color in children's books, but men are essential parts of childhood experience, right? And fathers, especially when we talk about communities of color, having present male figure role models is very important. And so this is a really lovely book. Mom is away. I think mom's at work. And so dad and daughter are trying to find a suitable hairstyle. It's really cute. Again, you can watch the video on YouTube. I really enjoyed it. I actually show it to my 7th grade class every year, and we talk about the character development and the types of emotions that the characters feel. It's a really good and easy way to introduce storylines at the beginning of the year. The next book is called Solway, and this book in particular really touched me, and I chose it because it's about a young girl who is very dark-skinned. Her family is all much lighter than her, so her mother and her sisters are all a lot lighter, and so she wants to be lighter skinned too. It's actually really heartbreaking. She decides that she's going to eat only the light-colored foods like bananas and mayonnaise and milk. And then her mother explains to her that her name means the night sky or the night stars, and that you need both. You need the day and the night in order to have a complete universe, and it's really sweet. I have a lot of Black students every year, and I think one of the things that we do talk about, because it's not even a topic that I bring up, just a topic that comes up in conversation amongst the students about lighter skinned and darker skinned students. And understanding that we're all part of our community and we're all important members of our community, and we all have something to offer our community is really important. And I think this is a really great children's book for kids of all ages. Okay, and the last one, or else this list is going to go on forever, is called The Name Jar. And this is a children's book by an author, a Korean author, who wants to have a different name. So in this book, she's in school with a bunch of children who have Western names, and she feels that she also needs a Western name. So what she does is she creates a jar, and she asks all of her friends to put a name in the jar for her. And at the end, she's going to choose a name that she likes out of the jar. And personally, I have a Western name. My name is Valerie, but I definitely have lots of friends who have non-Western names. Some of them went with choosing a Western name, and some of them decided to keep their own names. I think it's a really personal choice, and it's an experience that everyone who has a non-Western name in a Western country might experience. But I think it's also good for people like us who don't have that experience to read about these experiences. So I wanted to add this to the list. Okay, moving right along. Strega Nonna is an Italian book, and this is a fairy tale. It's an original fairy tale, and I really like it. I really like it. It's got this kind of old feel to it, and it feels like an old fairy tale, even though it's a more modern fairy tale. The book is not that old. It's about Nonna, and she is getting older, so she's trying to find someone to help her, and it's her journey. I don't want to give away too much of the story, but Strega Nonna translates to Grandma Witch, so just keep that in mind, because it's not the main topic of the book, but it's a big portion of the fairy tale and the magic that's happening in the book. And it's a Caldecott recipient, honorary Caldecott. This last one is called Jin Jin the Dragon. And the books that I find the most interesting, again, this is a fairy tale. This is a Chinese fairy tale. I really like the images in this book. And what I like about this book, and maybe something that I enjoy in Chinese mythology and versus Western mythology, is that dragons aren't necessarily scary, right? In Western mythology, they breathe fire and everybody's afraid of them. But in this one, this dragon is very happy. And this is his journey on his way. He meets lots of friends, turtles, and they end up in really ridiculous situations. But he is a savior of the town. So unlike some of our Western dragons, he doesn't destroy the town. He saves the village. And I think it's really good for kids to have those sorts of different perspective and different cultural insights. I chose these two books, The Balcony and Look Up. The Balcony and Look Up are similar types of books. Again, this is a Korean author, and this is a Spanish author. Both of these books are without a lot of words or without any words at all. And the reason that I chose these is specifically because I wanted to talk to them in relation to print awareness, which is something that we talked about in the last video. And in these sorts of books, you can describe pages. You can tell your own story. You can retell the story. You can change the story. You can add so many things to the story if you're a creative person. I know that it can kind of stump you if you're not, but if you let your child guide the way, a lot of times children will help you tell the stories by themselves, or they might just go off on their own story that is totally fine and fun as well. I remember when I was teaching kindergarten, I was tasked with reading a book to a whole bunch of kids. We had 3 classes together, and there were probably about 75 kids. And I picked up a random book. The book had no words. And I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Because I don't know how to read a book with no words. And on the spot like that, I'm just not that creative. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I said, okay, we're going to have the kids tell the story. So we opened the book and I said, okay, we're in a city. And the kids went, no, you're not. You're not in a city. And so I said, well, where are we? And so we started going through, and it's a little bit rough at first because the kids didn't really know what I expected of them. So slowly I started to teach them, I want you to raise your hands. I want you to walk me through this story. And they had so much fun. They told the story over and over again. My own class wanted to hear the story over and over again. And their stories got more and more ridiculous every time we read it. I think that these are really hard to pull off if you're not familiar with it, or if you get hesitant or if you just have creative block, right? Not everybody wants to be creative. Some of us want to have our stories told to us. That's okay. But if you are, I wanted to highlight this one and this one here. In Look Up, it's about this person here looking at these people here and vice versa. So they are looking up at each other, and there are so many different stories you can tell. Why is he up there? What is he doing? How does he get down? Does he get down? Is he stuck up there? Are they 2 different worlds? And these are stories that, especially when you get to like that 4 or 5-year-old age range where they're starting to get more creative, these are really fun stories to tell. You can have an older sibling reading to a younger sibling, and they can be really fun to do together. So I wanted to highlight some of these stories. You can look for children's books with no words, picture books with no words, and you can find some of these. These will all be at the bottom in the description. Okay, last one on this list. It's kind of honorary mention, but it's called Pink is for Boys. And since we're kind of talking about underrepresented authors and people of color, I thought it would be good to highlight this book, not because this is not specifically LGBT book, but it does highlight the fact that colors are for everyone, right? Green is for boys and girls, right? And purple is for boys and girls. And I think when children start to become 4 to 6 years old-ish, they really start to have these gender ideas pushed into their culture and into their little bubbles. And at that age, I find personally that when I restrict them, it actually makes them want things more. And just letting them develop who they are as people has been really beneficial in my class. But again, this is totally up to you and in your parenting style. I did like it because in addition to Pink is for Boys, it also talks about little girls and how little girls can wear jeans, little girls can do the things that boys are doing, because boys and girls are doing the exact same thing on all of the pages together. I think that's a really great message for little girls, especially at this age. And it is one of the books where the little girls are not always in dresses. And I think that's important for our little girls also, to be able to feel comfortable in many different types of clothing. In the 4 or 5 age range, you really do see girls starting to feel like they have to wear dresses all the time, even though they can't always play in dresses and they might not actually be comfortable in dresses. So reinforcing the idea that children can wear anything in any color and be comfortable in all of these different spaces is, I think, really important for them. So like I was saying earlier, if you like this video, please make sure that you comment. Let me know which book you like the best. Subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so you can be informed of all my future videos. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.